name is Teresa Vega, and I am going to simply read the Thompson-King, not King Thompson, Thompson-King. Thomas Thompson was my fourth great-grandfather. His daughter, Mary, was married to Jacob D. King, whose Underground Railroad house is right here. Facts matter. I'm going to read the resolutions today, Thompson-King resolutions, the way my ancestors read them, starting, we know, as early as 1841 in the Colored American. Resolved that Frederick Douglass was our prophet of freedom, who became the collective voice of our people all over this great nation. Resolved that Newark, New Jersey was an epicenter of abolitionism, and that there was already a long-established community of Black activists here that was ready to greet Frederick Douglass when he arrived on April 17th, 1849. And I'm gonna call the names: Thompson, King, O'Fakes, the Rays, the Dradens, the Tenbrooks, the Wheelers, and I can go on and on. Our folks have always been here. Resolved that the Thompson-King family, a family of African native descent with roots in New Jersey going back over 400 years, was Newark's born and bred early abolitionists, who were among the original foot soldiers of freedom who institutionalized what became known as the Underground Railroad throughout the Northeast. Because they were the descendants of people who survived. We are survivors of the triple horror of genocide, colonization, and slavery. Resistance has always been part of our DNA. It has always been part of our family history, and it will continue to be part of our family history. Resolved that Frederick Douglass had a 50-year personal relationship with our ancestors. And when I say a personal relationship, I mean through intermarriage with his descendants. I'm talking about our Ware ancestors in Buffalo wrote for the North Star. I'm talking about a lot of our ancestors were United States colored troops. Some served with his sons in the 54th Glory Regiment. They attended the colored conventions from Jump Street. Our folks knew the man himself. And on this day, those of us who are here, the living descendants of the Thompson-King family, look to reestablish and reaffirm the historic ties that bound our abolitionist families together in the past with the living descendants of Frederick Douglass on this auspicious day. Finally, the last resolution is not my own, but it's that of my first cousin 6 times removed. That's how I refer. And that is our very own Reverend Dr. Charles Henry Thompson, who was one of the ministers of, we called it the Colored Presbyterian Church, for 11 years. Facts matter. Prior to him becoming the minister at the Colored Presbyterian Church here, he was the minister of the Shiloh Presbyterian Church in Manhattan, the Siloam Presbyterian Church in Brooklyn. And prior to that, he was one of the first Black graduates of Oberlin College. He was a student supported by Reverend Simeon Jocelyn, one of the original lawyers who represented the Amistad captives and founded the American Missionary Association, an abolitionist group. After he left Newark, Dr. Thompson went south during Reconstruction along with Jacob D. King's daughter, Harriet King Brown, who was one of the first school teachers in the colored school. And he taught at several HBCUs and continued to minister his flocks. The colored school where Jacob D. King's brother, Reverend John A. King, along with his other brother, Abraham Ogden King, that school was founded in 1828, officially. But unofficially, it started back in 1822 when our folks founded not only the AME Zion Church right here, but later on in the 1836, They were one of the founding members of the Colored Presbyterian Church. Facts matter. In 1822, once the AME Zion Church was founded, our folks left the Presbyterian Church and went. Both churches were freedom churches. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that on April 20th, 1870, think 3 days from now, Black Newark gathered in Lincoln Park, Boston in the house, and held the Negro Jubilee, an event that celebrated the ratification of the 15th Amendment in New Jersey. And that event can be considered the last 1st of August celebration that our ancestors helped to organize in Newark. For the record, our ancestors had the right to vote after the Revolutionary War, but it was taken away from all people of color and women in 1807. When our Reverend Thompson finally addressed the crowd back then in 1870, he made several resolutions that seemed, operative word, to end a 63-year-old battle. However, we all know the battle for voting rights continues today. The battle over mixed status families at the border continues today. Our prophet of freedom, Frederick Douglass, often said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. So let us continue the struggle. Let us continue being new abolitionists today. I now leave you with Reverend Thompson's last resolution that was so full of Black patriotic hope. And let's be clear, it is people of color who always have been the most patriotic Americans who have forced this country to live up to its creed, that all people were created equal. Facts matter. His words still have meaning. They still resonate today. And our ancestor, my cousin, homie, friend, first cousin, 5 times removed, said, resolved that in this our day of triumph, we look back upon the past with malice towards none, with charity for all. That we regard the present as a day of rejoicing and of preparation, and that we move onward to the future with a full determination to do our whole duty to the land whose interests are now our interests, and with whose destiny we are now and forever linked. I'm going to ask my homies, my relatives in the Thompson-King section to now stand. And I have to remind them. Now I'm going to be clear. All of you stand in that section. Some of you still sitting. Now I have to remind them, they already heard this speech, so I'm going to remind everybody here. You may see one of me, but I walk with millions. There is a fundamental belief that we have in our family, that there is no separation between those who live on high in the place where the sun never sets and those of us standing here today. Our ancestors are with us wherever we go. We remain their voices on this earth. I know without a shadow of a doubt that early this morning, our ancestors got up and said, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I know without a shadow of a doubt, our ancestor angels flew over to the Douglas mansion early this morning and said, this is the day they're remembering us all. We got to see this. So on the count of 3, don't embarrass me and they're watching you. They're right here. Okay? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's make some noise and welcome to Newark, the Douglas family. I want to thank the Chancellor Cantor, Chancellor Masha Brown, and others in the office of the Chancellor for inviting myself and our family to represent. We've been representing Newark a long time now. We're still here. And there's so much more work that we have to do to bring Newark and center Newark back in its rightful historic place as an epicenter of abolitionism. Thank you.